My name is Brandon Neal Jones, and today is July 16th, 2015, and we are here in the Kamioka room of the Stillwater Community Center as part of the Spotlighting Oklahoma Oral History series of the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. I will be interviewing Mrs. Sylvia Duncan on the Sister Cities international relationship between Kamioka, Japan, and Stillwater, Oklahoma. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
So, Mrs. Duncan, let's just start right at the beginning. Let's start with the founding of this relationship and who the key players were.
All right. We need to go back to 1985 when the state of Oklahoma, and I think principally the Department of Commerce, formed a relationship with the Kyoto Prefecture in Japan. And then they decided, or the Department of Commerce, that it would be good if there would be a city in Oklahoma that would have a sister city in Kamioka, Japan. Now, going way back to 1956, then President Dwight D. Eisenhower had the idea that there should be citizen diplomacy, and he had presented this idea, but it was not until actually in 1967, I believe, that the organization Sister Cities International was formed as a nonprofit organization. And the whole idea was that if relationships could be built between citizens of cities around the world from them, that there would be common understanding and it would be truly citizen diplomacy. Now back to Stillwater. There were some people who thought this would be an excellent idea for Stillwater to have a sister city relationship. At that time, the mayor of Stillwater was Mayor Chris Salmon, who was an architecture professor at the university. However, she was not the one who really signed the agreement. She did send a three-member, well rather, Kamioka sent a three-member fact-finding delegation to Stillwater to see if the city of Stillwater would fit what Kamioka wanted, which was not too far from the capital of the state, an economy based on agriculture, and also the home of a university. So all of those things seem to fall in place. So finally then, in November of 1985, a 12-member delegation went from Stillwater, and at that time it was headed by Mayor Calvin Anthony. And in Kamioka, on November the 3rd, 1985, Mayor Anthony and Kamioka Mayor Yohisha Taniguchi signed the formal documents establishing the sister city relationship, which, as I think you noted, is now in our 30th year of that relationship.
Yes.
Now, the delegation did come back to Stillwater determined to develop a dynamic program, and
Now,
I feel that it has happened.
Can I ask you, were you a part of that original 12-member delegation?
I was not a part
Okay.
of that original 12-member delegation.
Okay.
However, upon their return to Stillwater, they did make a call for interested individuals to come together, and I was one of those who met at the City Hall. And we did, we were given the charge to form a council, write bylaws, and become an integral part of the city government. And I was one of the original 9 members of that council, and I actually did the major part of the work on writing the bylaws.
The bylaws, okay.
And actually, I am known as the charter member of the council because I have been on the council continuously for these 30 years. And actually the only one, now Larry Jones was on the original council, but he took a leave from the council duties when he went to Kamioka to be on the faculty of OSUK, which was established in the city of Kamioka.
Okay. So now, let's go back to that founding of the Sister Cities Council.
Mm-hmm.
So the original 12-member delegation, they went over in November of 1985. Mm-hmm. And then on November 3rd in Kamioka, Calvin Anthony and Mayor Taniguchi signed the agreement.
That's right.
And then they came back and they delivered, or they sent out a call for citizens to begin this council. So tell me about those first days with the council. You mentioned that you had written the bylaws, and but tell me a little bit of your personal experience with the council, and what made you want to join this council? What was your original interest?
I had, prior to that time, been involved in teaching English to international students here on the OSU campus. And I just had an interest in international affairs and relationships that were peaceful and enriching. And on that original council, in addition to Larry Jones, was Dr. Harold Sayer of the Political Science Department at the university, Ken McKinley, a woman named Dee Dutt, and we did have a city liaison, one of the staff people whose name I do not remember because it was a young man, but he did not stay in that position long. Rather, the assistant city manager, Mary Rupp, became the city official who was assigned to the council.
And her name was Mary Rupp?
R-U-P-P.
Okay. And in those first days of being on the council, what were some of the highlights, activities that you participated in and that you led that really founded the starting of the council? You know, what are some things that really come to your mind as those first few days? What activities were you a part of?
Well, the first few days was actually the bylaws.
Okay.
But I don't remember too much other than we decided that since the Japanese were so into beautiful Japanese landscape gardens, mm-hmm. that it might be appropriate if we established a Japanese garden at City Hall.
Okay.
And a Japanese garden is called a koen, K-O-E-N, and we did set about and built a Japanese garden to the north of the municipal building, and we did it with volunteer labor.
Okay.
And we had a beautiful wooden sign fabricated that we hung really on Main Street, but later at the Kamioka Koen, which indicated how many miles west that Kamioka was from Stillwater.
Oh, okay.
And then we did have a large delegation come from Kamioka in 1987, and that really was the time of our second anniversary. It was November of 1987, and at that time we did establish, well, we had prior to that time, but at that point we dedicated a walking trail called the Kamioka Trail that starts in Couch Park. The head of that trail is just across the street north from what is the Senior Citizen Center now.
Okay.
And it goes clear to Boomer Lake.
That is,
It is a walking trail.
I have walked that trail a few times myself out towards Boomer, and that was my first experience with Kamioka, and noticing the sign and kind of asking myself, what is this that I'm seeing?
And then we did have a dedication of the Kamioka koan.
Okay, and that was in 1987 for the second anniversary.
Yes, that's
Okay.
true.
And now, at what?
See, we entertained that delegation from Kamioka and got individually acquainted with all of those people who came.
And tell me a little bit more about the entertainment aspect of it. As far as, were you introducing them to native Oklahoman food? Were you introducing them, I mean, what kind of events do you remember about that?
Well, I remember hosting one
Tell me about that.
in my home.
Yeah, tell me.
It was really, and now I think this was the one that we had in the backyard, and it was a cookout.
Okay.
But we had to quickly move inside when a rainstorm occurred. But anyway, that was the kind of thing we did. We
Okay.
had meals in homes generally, sometimes in a restaurant, and we had some homestays,
Okay.
and I remember one of the persons who was at our home had been in World War II, and so had my husband, but they developed a very good rapport. And if I remember correctly, the man gave my husband a Japanese kimono. It was a lady's kimono, but I mean, there was that relationship that developed.
Okay.
Even though there had formerly been wartime enemies,
Yeah.
they were.
Well,
And that's the whole idea of the sister cities, is to develop friendships and understanding of we're all alike as human beings. So, but that's what we did.
Now, let's, so that was the second anniversary. Let's discuss your first trip to Japan. Have you made it? You have?
Yes, I went to Japan, I think in October of 1988. And I traveled with two others, a man named Dr. Joseph Fox, who was on the council, and then the mayor, Mike Henson. And we actually were invited to come to attend the 43rd National Sports Festival, which is held every year, I think every year in Japan. It could be less than every year, but anyway, Kamioka was hosting some of the events of that. Some were taking place in Kyoto, but some were, and I think maybe they have those events in different prefectures each time, so that, and in Japan, the prefecture is equivalent to our state.
Okay.
And Kyoto City is the capital of Kyoto Prefecture, but the city of Kamioka is just about 35 miles from Kyoto City.
It's due west, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Okay. And your first time in Japan, what are some of the feelings, the emotions, your experiences while you were there? Did you fly in through Tokyo, or did you fly in through
Kansai and
Kansai? Okay.
Well, that time we came through Tokyo, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
The next time I went, we came through Kansai, the city of Osaka. Well, we were just waited on hand and foot. I mean, we were treated so hospitably. And, of course, I was a little dubious of some of the food, but I tried to not show that too much and go ahead and eat it. And then I believe it was on that trip that we stayed in a traditional Japanese inn and with the tatami mats.
And those are called ryokan?
I think that's right.
Okay.
Something like that.
But you stayed at the traditional Japanese inn with the tatami style.
Uh-huh.
Those are very beautiful. How long were you there? Kind of even an estimate.
It was probably nearly a week.
Okay.
As I said, my 86-year-old memory eludes me sometimes, and when things happened nearly 30 years ago, I forget all the specific details.
No, I do understand that, but
I do remember about that traditional Japanese inn. In the lobby, they had a beautiful white, richly embroidered, embellished wedding kimono.
Oh, I bet that was beautiful.
And I know that Mayor Henson and I both, had oohed and awed over it, but the innkeeper said, well, would you like to try it on? And so we both had the opportunity to try this beautiful wedding kimono on.
Nice. That's a memory that you just can't forget, isn't it? And that was a wedding kimono in the lobby of the inn.
Uh-huh.
So that was your first trip into Kamioka, and what would be, the next major event? Would you have gone back to Japan, or did we have another delegation come between then?
Well, we had quite a few delegations, and then there was also the sister school relationship, which was established, where we had at least, the first delegation that went from the middle school to Japan was a rather large delegation of students, and that was led by John Mills, who is the principal and also a member of the Sister City Council. And then in turn, in that sister school agreement, they would send at least a teacher and 2 students to Stillwater.
Okay.
And that alternated. It got to where we sent a teacher and 2 students, and then the next year they would send a teacher and 2 students. And that happened up until the time that there was some fear or apprehension about safety, and then also the economic downturn in Japan. So there have not been as many of the educational exchanges. Now,
do you know what year that would have began, or approximately?
I should know exactly. Let me think about that
Okay.
a little.
We'll come back to that in a moment.
But I do know that we had the opportunity through Sister City International to apply for some grants, and they were called Trilateral Grants, where it involved Stillwater, Kameoka, and a city in a third world country. And I actually had applied for, and I did the work in sending in the proposal, to apply for, the first grant had to do with early childhood education. I believe I'm correct on that. We had one on early childhood education and another on lifetime learning. But I know I was at an organizational meeting in Irvine, California. We got both the grants, but they were years apart. One was like 1993 and 4, and the other was like 1996 or 7. But when I was in California for this organizational meeting of the first grant, and we had a large group of Japanese come. They were members of the Social Welfare Foundation, and it was in the matter of lifetime learning was the subject of the Trilateral Exchange, and they came while I was gone.
Okay.
Just so happened.
They came here to Stillwater.
They came here to Stillwater.
Okay, while you were in California.
Yes.
Okay.
At least during the largest part of the time of their stay. But those visitors to Stillwater at that time were divided into groups and went to different places that would have been of interest to senior citizens, people with cognitive impairment, and maybe working women or women with home offices. This was a social welfare group, and so these were some of the issues that they were interested in, and so places for them to visit were in those areas.
So they were coming not only to open up this relationship and to create this dialogue between two communities, but they were also coming to learn about some of our programs
Yes.
and offerings that we have here in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
For our citizens.
For our
That's
citizens,
correct.
okay. So it was very much a learning experience for both cities.
Right.
Okay.
But then the second time I went to Japan was in 1995, in May of 1995, and this was sort of an evaluation meeting for representatives of all the cities that had been involved in the Trilateral Exchange.
Which, by the way, can we, a quick question, the third city that was involved? We
All
have
right, the
Stillwater,
third city.
Kamioka.
All right, it was Jandira, Brazil.
Okay.
A sister city to Kamioka, and it's rather interesting because lots of Japanese people had immigrated to Brazil,
Okay.
and that's one reason they had
That was the connection there for
the
Kamioka.
connection.
Okay.
And in some of that Trilateral Exchange, we actually had the mayor of Jandira and his wife to visit Stillwater. And then later we had, John Mills and his wife went to Jandira as our, so there were trips with all three cities.
Okay. And now you said your second time to Japan in May of 1995, that was an evaluation?
Yes, it was an evaluation meeting, and it was actually there. We flew into Kansai
Okay.
because the meeting actually took place in Osaka.
Okay.
And at that meeting, I stayed in the Continental Hotel in Osaka, but I did go to Kamioka as well, and Mayor Taniguchi was present at the meetings, of course, and so, and at that time, there were 3 of us again who went, and that was John Mills, Mike Henson, and myself. And I believe at that point, Mike may not have been the mayor, but anyway, she was and Mike sounds like a boy's name, but it's a woman, and she was a very close friend of mine, and so that was the second trip.
And just so I'm sure, Mike, M-I-K-E,
Uh-huh.
and then Henson?
Henson.
Okay.
And then John Mills also, because that was on the early childhood education trilateral exchange.
Okay.
And so even though he was the principal at the middle school, his wife was a specialist in early childhood education.
And what was there, were there goals that were trying to be accomplished at this meeting? What was being evaluated, I guess, is a better question.
All right, well, I will tell you, and I had sort of written out on the one with early childhood education. One of the results was that there were informative curriculum booklets for preschoolers developed, and innovative teaching methods were shared. And in regard to both grants, there was the realization on the part of all the participants that basically human beings are all alike, regardless of age and ethnicity, that we're alike in so many ways. And so it led to the idea that these quality of life issues can impact world peace.
Now, this puts us at, let's see, we're in May of 1995. Is this getting close to about the time that the Japanese gardeners came over to build the garden that's outside the community
I believe they came in
center?
1997.
Okay. And could you tell me a little bit more about that?
All right, this was, the idea arose in Kamioka that this garden would be a gift to Stillwater. And they let us know that's what they wanted to do, and so they posed the problem of where it should be built. And so we wrestled with that before they came, of course, but it was decided it would be here at the community building, the community center. And there were 17 gardeners who came, and they did ship rocks from the Hozu River, which runs through Kamioka, large rocks, or stones, I should say, to use, and they shipped the 2 different, I say 2, I can visualize 2 different Japanese lanterns, but the large one that is in the garden, but we had another one that they had given us that we had in Kamioka, Cohen. But anyway, they shipped those stones, and they made arrangements to rent large equipment, everything they could in Stillwater, but they had to get some things from Oklahoma City. But they bought plant material and probably expended, including their travel and accommodations, in excess of $100,000.
It's quite a gift for Stillwater,
Quite
isn't
a gift.
it?
And then there were people who would come nearly every day the gardeners were working and watch them work and bring them something to eat or drink, and they would sit on the lawn and eat. And one gentleman who lived somewhere in the neighborhood of the community center wanted to give them OSU football tickets. It was in the fall of the year for football season, and so that was what he did. And they were able to go to a Saturday football game.
How nice.
And then I think maybe about 3 years later, 3 or 4 of gardeners returned to check on how the growth was taking place. And actually we had a little ceremony, and it was named the International Friendship Garden, and there is a plaque that has all the names of the gardeners, which is engraved in the garden. Now, in addition to the garden here at the community center, they did build a small Japanese garden at the botanical garden.
Okay,
at
so
OSU.
that was done at the same time?
It was done at the same time they
Okay.
built the garden here.
And is the, just to clarify, the Kamioka koan, is that still?
No, the Kamioka koan went the way of many
Okay.
things in this life,
Okay.
because it had to be destroyed when the addition was built, the current police
Okay.
station.
So we still have the International Friendship Garden out here, and then we have the smaller garden at OSU
At
Botanical.
OSU,
Okay. And so now we're up to about 2000s, aren't we?
Okay.
Is that where we're now? I don't want to. How do I put this? I don't want to rush anything. So if we've skipped some major events that you would like to cover, please let me know.
Well,
Because I know there's 30 years of history.
yes.
It is, and it's a rich history.
Well, I was trying to think, one thing that we did in 1992, and that's really going back prior to the garden. Sister Cities International annually has their annual international conference.
Okay.
And in 1992, Tulsa, Oklahoma was chosen as the locale for that, or the host. And so we did invite a large Kamioka delegation to come to Oklahoma to attend the international conference in Tulsa.
Okay.
And we entertained them there and here. And we did help with the conference in Tulsa.
Okay.
And there were activities at like Gilchrist Museum in Tulsa, where Native American Indians performed. And one thing I remember about being at the conference in Tulsa was meeting the mayor of Timbuktu. You know, you use that word. We don't know
But it
where
is
Timbuktu is
An
sometimes.
actual place, yes.
But
no.
anyway, that was a fun time, and we brought them back to Stillwater. I think, if I remember correctly, we brought the delegation back via Pawnee Bills.
Oh, okay.
And so that's one thing I remember about 1992. And then that's sort of, you know, backing up before the social welfare group came. And in 1998, there was a group of Stillwater citizens who went to Kamioka for the dedication of a new building in Kamioka called Kamioka's Galleria.
Okay.
And I know Steve and Becky Irby, I believe, were in that group. Becky is a member of
The Sister
council.
Cities Council. Mhm.
And then also that year, we accumulated and received donations of gifts by Stillwater authors. And those were taken to Kamioka as a gift from Stillwater to Kamioka for placement in their library. And then actually moving on to the year 2000, that was the 15th anniversary of our relationship, and we had a Japanese delegation present here that time, invited, and Mayor Taniguchi came with them at that time. Then in 2002, and this was in January, it was the dead of winter, a group called the Kamioka Trail Tono Ensemble came and presented a concert, and they were musicians who played what's known as an ocarina, which is I think when I was a child they were called a juice harp, but these ocarinas that they played were made from clay that was dug out of the ground when they built this new Kamioka City Hall.
Okay.
So they were made out of native. But there was a large group of them, and we had a concert of their performance at the West Watkins Center. And it was on a January night when it was extremely cold and icy. And then we had a breakfast for them the next morning, and they were going to leave that day, and we had that in the basement area of the public library.
The ocarina group
Uh-huh.
from Kamioka in 2002.
Uh-huh.
You talk about that being in the dead of winter, and could you tell me if you guess how many people showed up to see this? Because
It was a huge crowd.
that's what I thought.
It was a huge crowd.
The snow and the ice did not stop them.
Deter them.
Nope. Okay.
And that next morning when we had the breakfast and the sun was shining, but everything was just sparkling because all the trees were covered with ice and all the shrubbery, and but we told them goodbye.
And let's see, so that's in 2002, and I think the next big event is our 20th anniversary, is it not?
Well,
Or did we have a little something in between there?
there might be some things in between that perhaps were not directly sister city connected, but one of the professors from the horticulture department at OSU, Dr. Paul Shu, who happens to be Chinese, but he had been taking groups to Japan to study the Japanese gardens.
Okay.
And so that was taking place in 2004 in that time frame. And then in 2005 there was a Stillwater delegation that went to Kameoka, and
This would be around the 20th anniversary.
yes, that's correct.
And this was a a political and citizen delegation, or
It was mainly just a citizen
just citizens?
delegation.
Okay. And you were on this trip?
No,
No,
no.
this was
The two trips that I've mentioned, 1988 to the 43rd National Sports Thing, and then the trip in 95 to Osaka, and then also to Kamioka. One thing I might mention that happened prior to the 2000 decade, we're here in the Kamioka room, and my professional life has been as a certified public accountant, and one of my longtime clients was Winfrey Houston, who's been very active in the development of this old school building to become the Stillwater Community Center. And he kept talking to me. He said, we need a Kamioka room in the community center. And so he sort of placed it upon my shoulders to, and he interceded with the board of the community center that we be given a space designated as the community center.
And about what year was this?
Well, I would really have to look on this plaque that's on the wall over there that lists on brass plates the people who donated, and each of the 3 lighted cases which are behind me have a brass plate on them saying who donated the
objects
cases.
inside, or
Right.
the cases.
The cases.
Okay.
Now, all of the artifacts and things inside the cases are gifts from various official delegations or just friendly gifts to the city of Stillwater, and some of the things have been given to individuals, and then the individuals have
donated
given them
okay.
to be on display here.
Okay.
But that was really one of my projects, was
putting together the room and
putting together the room, and then in addition to these 3 lighted cases that you see behind me, there is one in the lobby outside the Lowry Center. It's just like these cases here, and it's full of artifacts. And then there is another case in the room now, which is to my right, which the case and all of the artifacts in it were donated more recently by a doctor, a retired doctor who was leaving Stillwater, Dr. Charles Johnson, and his then deceased wife, June. And most of the things, the artifacts in that case, were given to Mrs. Johnson through the years based upon some friendship that she had built with Japanese who were here in the military at different times.
Okay.
And then we have other cases in the room that were donated by Calvin Anthony, the then owner of Tiger Drug, and so,
the former mayor who signed
the Sister City Agreement.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes. And I know there's another case here in the Stillwater Community Center with a samurai.
Yes, and that was given to the city early on.
Oh, that's an older
very
gift.
early.
Okay.
Very early on. Let me tell you, when the case was not given, the samurai warrior was.
Okay.
The case was fabricated by one of the city employees, McClinney is his name.
McClinney.
And it was built specifically to house the samurai warrior. And actually, it was, the original intent was for it to be in the Kamioka room in the area on the West End. And he was very dismayed, as were all of us, when he couldn't get it through the door into the room. He had measured so that all of the samurai fit in beautifully. But that's the reason it's also in the lobby outside the Lowry Center.
And let's see. So we've done the 20th anniversary, and I believe there was a 25th anniversary.
Yes, there was a 25th anniversary, and that was, we had a special delegation here at that time from Kamioka, and on October the 17th, 2010, we had a special program, and again it was in the auditorium area at the public library, and there we had the Stillwater Middle School string, well, it's a group called the Touring Strings. It wasn't their whole orchestra. They performed, former Mayor Anthony spoke, Larry Jones spoke, and at that time one of the men at the university, Dr. James Romas, was serving as a board directors member for Sister Cities International. And he was never really on our Stillwater Sister Cities Council, but he was the board of directors of Sister City International, and so he had a part in the program. And then there was a group from the university, a choral group that sang, of students from OSU, and a group from the I think it was really the major part of the Stillwater community singers sang that day, and John Mills and Cindy Petrie told about the Sister School program.
Now,
And then
John Mills is the principal, and Cindy Petrie is a teacher with...
the Stillwater Middle School.
Okay.
She's been the one to spearhead the international exchange program. And actually, she was one of the original Sister City Council members way back.
Okay.
But then she left Stillwater and moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then she came back to Stillwater at the middle school, and she is currently now a member of the Sister City Council.
Okay.
And then they gave me the duty of making the closing remarks that day. But we had a very nice 25th anniversary program. And the program highlighted everything that we had done in the first 25 years.
Very nice.
So I say everything, probably not everything.
But yeah.
the main things, like the school exchange, and also I hadn't mentioned that our program has won some awards. We were awarded for having the outstanding youth exchange, and Larry Jones was named for the International Volunteer of the Year in 2001, and then there was Sister Cities International recognized what they called a distinguished circle of volunteers, and that was on the 50th anniversary of Sister City International, and there were several of our council members who were included in that distinguished circle of volunteers. And then I was trying to think of something else that, we have been involved with the Sister City art competition, and then they enlarged the art competition to include young authors, but we've taken part in that every year since it was started.
And how long has that been going on?
Well,
I believe there was some art hanging out here a few months ago that was for that.
Well, generally, they have it, the winning art hangs at the national or international convention, which is usually held in July.
Okay.
But then they have a traveling exhibit, and we've usually had it come where it can hang here. But it's usually not until like in January or something. It's usually here in the winter.
So, if I understand this correctly, so Sister Cities International holds this art competition
for young people.
Within
a certain age range.
And then we do a local competition to select a winner to send to the national. Okay, I see. And we've been doing that for as long as the Sister
City International has had that program.
Okay, since the beginning of
I don't remember exactly the date.
Okay. And they've now opened that up to young authors.
Yes.
And are we involved in that aspect of it also? Okay.
Yes. And we do give an award locally to those who, the winners that we select, that we send on to the international competition.
Very nice. Let's see here. So we're getting to a point where we're almost up to contemporary, to now. Would you like to tell me about this doll that you brought with you
All right,
today?
well, this is a Kokishi doll, and a Kokishi doll is one that has no arms.
Okay.
And they are the rage in Japan. However, the Japanese love all kinds of dolls.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I remember, and I don't remember the exact year, but one of our council members, Nancy Simpson, and I put together a very large doll display in one of the closed cases at the public library. But I had a catalog from, this was given to me by a visitor from Japan, and I've had it for several years, but just a few years ago I had a catalog from the Chicago Museum of Art.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to see this exact doll pictured in there. And the price on it was $85 US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a lot of Kokishi dolls in this room. We have two cases, one on the west wall and one in the corner, that are from a collection by Pauline Kopecky, who was a teacher at OSUK and collected the dolls while she was there, and she has donated them now to the city of Stillwater for the Kamioka room.
That is, I'd like to know a little bit more. Do you know about the materials of the doll? Is this a handcrafted? Can you tell me a little more about that?
I think so. They're a lot of them are wooden. This is out of wood, but there are the dolls made out of other materials, and some that are covered with like a tapestry kind of, and punched into the crevices.
Okay. And one other thing that has been mentioned a couple times that I think we should discuss at least a little bit is OSUK. I don't know that very many people are familiar with this.
All right. In the very early days of our relationship with Kamioka, Mayor Taniguchi, who is the one who signed the agreement, was very interested in having Oklahoma State University establish a university in Kamioka. And he met with university officials nearly every time he came.
Mm-hmm.
And so this came into fruition. They built a building in Kamioka, sort of on the outskirts of Kamioka. The main part of the building is a replica of Old Central on the OSU campus. And then there is a rectangular addition on to house classrooms. But the idea was that they would have students come to Stillwater, the Stillwater campus, and learn English, and then they would, and I hope I'm correct on this, I know Larry can correct whatever, because, and then they would go back to study under English professors
Okay.
at OSUK.
And so they would come here to Stillwater and spend time in intensive English instruction,
Right.
Before going back to finish their the diploma at OSUK.
I think that is
Okay.
correct. I had known specifically.
And can you also, I had the pleasure of joining you all for a, let me see, a Sukiyaki Dinner.
Yes.
And that is something you all hold twice a year? And
No, it's one of our annual events.
Annual
we
events.
We have quite a few things that we have done every year. And we usually have the Sukiyaki Dinner in April. And Becky Irby and her husband Steve have been generous to host it in their home. But usually, we invite the OSU students who are involved with the Japanese Student Association. We invite them to come, and usually the city councilman and the mayor, as well as our council members and their spouses. But we do the cooking
Yes.
usually. Larry and Kyle buy the meat and all of the ingredients, but we usually meet about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and chop the mushrooms, chop the Napa cabbage, and chop onions and all the rest of the things.
It was a very delicious dinner. Now you said you have several or a few different annual events.
Yes,
What
we do. Well, if you sort of started at like in January, one of our first things is getting sure that we have publicized about the Young Artists and Young Authors competition to the art teachers at the high school and whoever might enter. That's one of the first things in the year. Then we usually have the Sukiyaki Dinner in April. We have the recognition of the winners of the competition and sending that material on, the winning entries to. We publish what's known as the Tomodachi Newsletter, and the word Tomodachi means friends in Japan and in Japanese, and we don't always publish 4 a year, but at least 2 to highlight our activities. For the friends are volunteer people that help us with various things we do, entertaining guests, etc. And so there is that. And I really probably need a list or I'll forget something. Usually some of our members of the council go to the International SCI conference, which is usually in July. In August, we have always participated in and helped with what's known as the Mayor's Welcome on the campus to welcome all international students. So happens that in 2014, because of construction in the parking lot at the West Watkins Center, we didn't have it, but every year we had that, and we always have a Sister Cities booth there.
Okay.
And usually one of our, John Mills has been the MC lots of times, and we always help with that. We also usually host an ice cream social for incoming Japanese students, particularly those at the English Language Institute. That, of course, is usually early in the school term to welcome the Japanese students. And then we usually have a holiday potluck meal, late November, say, maybe between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but that we invite the Tomodachi club members to. Our volunteers, we invite the Japanese Student Association officers or other students who want to come to that. We usually participate, have a float in the OSU Homecoming Parade, where the Japanese students ride or walk, as the case may be, and sometimes we've had someone in a samurai uniform, and I'm sure there are some other things that we...
Well, if nothing else, you all stay very busy with the activities, because on top of all this, you have your monthly meetings also.
Yes, we meet once a month. Mm-hmm.
And tell me a little bit, those are typically held?
Those are held on the fourth Thursday of each month, unless that happens to be a holiday or something.
Okay.
But, and we usually meet here in the Kamioka room, except one thing I did omit, just didn't think about it when I was listing. What we do every year is in the fall, we usually do have a meeting, a little recognition ceremony at the high school to recognize all exchange students who are going to school at the high school from various countries. It's been a long time since we've had a Japanese student there, but they're from more European countries and South America. But we do that after school on a set day and serve refreshments and acknowledge them, and we invite not only the students but their host families to come. But we usually have it on a Thursday, which is our regular meeting day, the fourth Thursday. But the recognition might not fall on the fourth Thursday, but whenever we have the recognition at the high school, then we have our meeting immediately following it at the high school, okay, rather than having it here in this room,
Kamioka
just for convenience sake.
Well, Mrs. Duncan, I think this has been a wonderful interview. Now, if there are any things that you would like to add, but I think we did a great job of covering 30 years worth of history, and this definitely, now I still have Mr. Larry Jones and Kaio Jones to speak with, mm-hmm, and Cindy Petrie. So I'm sure they'll provide a few more details to this, this rich, rich history.
Well, one thing I do think we need to mention, and Larry might mention it, but here in Stillwater we do have the OOHRP Lifelong Learning Program, which it's OOHRP, I think, and it's called OLLI, O-L-L-I, which stands for, it's the acronym for OOHRP Lifelong Learning Institute, but it's commonly known as OLLI, where they have programs for the lifelong learning, people who are retired mainly. And Larry has taught, along with one of our members in particular and other, Nancy Simpson, on various aspects of our Sister City program, various aspects of Japan, like wedding traditions and other calligraphy and all kinds of things that are rather unique to Japan. And so we've taught those classes for...
And that's at the OOHRP Lifelong Learning Institute?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the classes usually meet like at the public library, or they might meet somewhere else, but all over town. It's open to the community. And not only are there classes here in Stillwater, but there are also classes in Tulsa.
Okay.
And I think Larry and Nancy had gone to Tulsa to teach even.
To provide a little bit of that insight that has been gained from the Sister Cities international relationship between Kamioka, Japan, and Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Right,
And we are about to celebrate 30 years
that's right.
this November.
This November.
Yes.
And we will be having our special 30-year ceremony on Sunday afternoon, October 25th, is it?
I think it's the 25th.
Okay, I don't have the
check to
calendar
make
in front
sure,
of me, but that is
that's
the
Sunday.
Sunday of homecoming weekend
Yes.
here at OSU, and we will have a delegation coming, an official delegation of 3 individuals, and then a citizen delegation of from 7 to 10 people.
That will be.
Maybe in closing, I think it was when we submitted information about Larry Jones to the Citrus City International for recognition as Volunteer of the Year.
Mhm.
The cover that we put on the material we sent was the idea of we have been weaving a fabric of understanding.
Weaving a fabric
Of
of
understanding.
understanding. That really does sum up this wonderful program and project and the dedication that you all have put into this and what has been learned
Through it.
through it. It has been. It's wonderful. Well, I thank you, Mrs. Duncan, for sitting here and discussing with me for the oral history research project.
Well, thank you for taking your time to interview me.
Well, thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.